All right, welcome to XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Let's take a look at the guide for a proper Skirmisher build. Before we dive into it, what does the Skirmisher class really do and what does it excel at? Skirmisher class is an assault rifle or skirmisher rifle class with a high mobility that is focusing on dealing damage through its weapon and having a high mobility. Now, that's what it's good at. And the advantage of this class is just that it can take a lot of actions, that it has an inherent kit with a couple of really nice abilities, and that it harmonizes quite well with many of the other teams. So if you are into skirmishers, they are a really good class, and they would, like, from the class balancing, probably be in the middle of the pack. That being said, many people are skilling the skirmisher class in a way that I cannot really understand, and they get themselves into trouble. So before I jump into the guide, let me make clear that you understand how good and how a bad encounter in XCOM 2 works. A good encounter is an encounter where you encounter the aliens, possibly only one pack of aliens, on your terms, in your turn, and you are able to kill each and every one before they even have a chance to react. If you can repeat that 3, 4, 5 times per mission, every single mission, then you're considered a very good XCOM player, because you do not take any chances and you are just killing the enemies without giving them the option to react. That's important to understand, because many misconceptualize how you should play the game. There's no such thing as you have a good defense and that's how you should play the game. XCOM 2 is a game which is very much based on offense first. So if you take a look at the Skirmisher class, it has a couple of great abilities for it, but it unfortunately also has a couple of abilities that are actually quite terrible. The Skirmisher excels in the early to mid game. You can already see that the green abilities are very much skewed to the left hand side, and later the Skirmisher class, in my perspective, does not get really meaningful new abilities. Let's start as always with the green ones. So how should you skill your Skirmisher? First ability tree, the squaddy tree. In the Hussar part, we get a Marauder, which allows us that shots are no longer ending our turn, and that is a phenomenal ability. It is the core ability of every skirmisher, and it is hands down probably the best ability in the whole tree of the skirmisher. You can take 2 shots with your assault rifle or with your skirmisher rifle, which is great. Just skill this and never look back. Secondly, justice. Use the grappling hook to pull the humanoid to yourself. Why is this really good? Like, number one, the grappling hook has a pretty high hit chance even against targets in heavy cover. So it is a means for the skirmisher to deny the enemy cover and to deliver a pretty solid attack against them as well. So I really liked it. It is, in my opinion, a very strong ability, and I would highly recommend you to get it. It is second to only the other 2 abilities in this tree. The grappling hook, which deploys a grappling hook as a free action. Free actions are always phenomenal. Never leave out a free action, because it doesn't cost you anything to have it in your repertoire. Now, the grappling hook that you normally would get from the Wrath armor that you can research is kind of a standard kit for them, and I would highly recommend to use it. High ground advantage gives you plus 20 on aim. You can sometimes just speed up and bypass a lot of obstacles, and it can get you into flanking positions which you otherwise cannot. Very quick reminder for this guide, and important to understand, there had been a change in War of the Chosen. The grappling hook triggers Overwatch. Be mindful of that. And secondly, and that will be something that the rest of the guide will cover, don't go overboard in getting yourself into positions that you haven't scouted out yet, because you will pull additional pots. And if you remember with what I started, you should only fight 1 pot at a time, unless absolutely no other options exist. A good player will not pull multiple pots regularly. Next ability that is great is in the Sergeant tree, the zero in. Subsequent shots on the same turn provide +10 critical chance and also +10 hit. Just a very good ability. There's nothing wrong with it. Static buff specifically for the Marauder standard shot ability, great. You should get that. Next good ability, Whiplash. It's a free ability, and remember what I said about free abilities? They are great. Once per mission, you can attack an enemy. If it would miss, it gets onto cooldown. If it hits, it deals damage. And since it is so important at the right moment in the mission to have spike damage, to just kill the enemies before they can act, this is a great ability. Next great ability, probably my favorite one with the exception of the core set, okay, is the Combat Presence, which is basically a better form of the psionic inspiration. It doesn't end your turn, and it allows you to give over one action of your soldier to another soldier. Now, why is that just genuinely a great ability? If you give an action over to, let's say, a grenadier, and they use their heavy weapon to deal maximum damage, or if you give it over to a sniper, let's say, to give them more shots after they missed their serial sniping parade, that is a very, very strong ability. It can also be used in order to get others out of trouble. If you have over committed and need to get people into safety, this here can also mean that you can run into full cover. It is a very, very, very good ability. Now, what are the situational abilities? Situational just means it fulfills kind of the purpose, but you need to be very mindful with it. Let's start with the first one here on the Sergeant tree, which is the reversed wrath. Instead of pulling the enemy to you, which is great, you pull yourself to the enemy, which normally sucks. Repeat after me. If you go to the enemy and you haven't scouted out before that won't trigger yet another pack, it is a bad idea to do this. Same reason as with the grappling hook. That's why you need to be super careful in having that ability. Second ability that is borderline okay is in the Lieutenant tree, the full throttle ability. Gain +2 mobility for every kill this turn. That's nice. From my experience, I suddenly encountered the situation where you kill it with the first shot and then want to do nothing other than moving, right, with the second shot. If you want to move somewhere, it means you have fucked up before because you are standing in open cover. You could use Overwatch as your second ability. You could use the grappling hook to move. So it's really a diminishingly nice ability. Next ability that is, situational. It's the Captain ability Retribution. Free ripjack strikes on any enemy that has entered or attacked from melee range. Now, here's the thing. Unless you run into a chrysalid, where I can see that that's a good ability, unless you do that and you did not know by any chance that there had been a chrysalid, there is no reason why that should ever trigger. If you do your job well, then you will not get into a position where someone is getting into melee range. The whole concept of XCOM2 revolves around the idea that you kill the enemies before they can come to you. If you skill this ability, it means that you anticipate that you are going to do a bad job. And I don't want you to do that, so don't bother to do it. That being said, if you have points left over, it's not an absolutely terrible ability, niche ability. Now, next one, the major ability, which is called Waylay. When you're entering Overwatch, you can take as many shots as you have remaining actions. That's good. I like it. It's on the brink of being green. So if you would ask me which of the 4 orange ones would you skill first cycle, then it would be Waylay. It's the weaker version of Guardian from the Specialist, so you can take 2 Overwatch shots. It's good. It has its place in the game when you do Overwatch traps, so it's not absolutely terrible. Maybe it could be green, but it's certainly not as good as the other abilities. Now, let's come to the wasted abilities, things that are actually not really good. The corporal abilities, both are actually not really good. Reflex, the upper one, allows you, when fired upon you, you gain 1 extra action on your next turn, triggers once per mission. Now, even if it would trigger 100 times per mission, it is just a bad ability. You should never be in a situation where you're fired upon in the first instance. Like, that assumes you're going in like a madman and you're taking fire. it is simply a really bad idea. It's also conceptually bad because whoever implemented it assumed that it is a great idea to be shot at. Second ability, which is actually probably from the red abilities, one of the better ones. It could be borderline orange. It's called Total Combat. Throwing a grenade or using an item no longer ends your turn. The only use that I can see for this is to have a mimic beacon on him and basically throw the mimic beacon before you take a shot. Now, is that a great use? I don't know. I have skilled it. I thought I would use it, but the reality is I have not. Not in 70 missions, and I could full-heartedly say I haven't missed the ability. Captain. The ability to interrupt, a powerful form of Overwatch. Instead of firing automatically, perform any single action. Now, yes, I've used it. And yes, there had 70 missions, there had been one time where it was actually not too bad. Would I say that it is worth spending points in it? Absolutely not. Not at all. Wayfarer here already got orange, and it allows you to take 2 shots in Overwatch. This here is just not good. The whole Overwatch, the idea of Overwatch is to kill the enemy and not to do something. I mean, the idea here was give the skirmisher an option to maybe throw a grenade. But yeah, guess what, Sherlock? The enemies run in bit by bit, so one after the other. A grenade wouldn't do you any good. And which other actions does he have? Should he use his grappling hook in order to give the enemy even more movement? It's conceptually weak designed. There should be more to it. Next ability, the major ability Reckoning. Unlocks the Ripped Jake slash attack 5 downs cooldown. No, that basically means you have a 5 turns cooldown ability that the ranger gets for free. This is just the normal slash attack. In no way I could see how that even made sense. Melee itself is already underwhelming. This here kind of makes melee, this year specifically, but that here kind of makes melee a thing again. But I don't know what they have thought when they were implementing this. Probably not much. So that it just doesn't make any sense. It's not worth a major ability. There could have been done so much more with the normal shots, giving him armor piercing, giving him the shredding ability on standard, giving him like rain of bullets, giving him cover removal. They just missed out on so many options that a proper skirmisher class, which is focusing only on the weapon, should have gotten. And melee is really none of that. The last one, and that was the most disheartening part when I was playing the game for the first time, when I saw like the kernel abilities. All 3 of them are not good. Manual override lets you lower the cooldowns of every ability by 1 turn. Now, you only have 2 abilities that actually have cooldowns, which is this one here. The cooldown is not too bad, and which is this one here. The cooldown ain't too bad either. So instead of 2 and 4, that's 1 and 3. Yeah, I can see that, but you're giving up an ability for that, and you're spending an action for that. So this is really not good. So the effect of a kernel ability to reduce like the cooldowns by a significant portion, I just don't see it. This one here is an ability with a cooldown. It sucks. This one here is an ability with a cooldown. It's not good either. So by all means, this one here was not a good ability. Battlelord, so that's the second one here. Battlelord, after each enemy in line of sight takes an action, take 1 immediate action. It kind of transforms you into this this alien ruler type, where you can always take an action. And I can see what the idea is, but how often do I need to say that this is not how XCOM is supposed to be played? If there are many enemies, like let's say 3, 4, 5 enemies, that actually take an action, and you can react to every single one of them, you've made a crucial mistake in the first place. You shouldn't be in a situation where 5 enemies are taking their turns and you are just reacting. So this is not good. And last but not least, Judgment, which is when targeted by an attack, it has a chance to panic the enemy. Same shit as the original corporal, oh no, reflex attack, reflex ability here. You shouldn't be attacked in the first case. So I hope you see what the point is. If you really want to play a successful skirmisher, go with the core set, go with the extra abilities, shift your action points to someone else, ignore the stuff that doesn't really make sense, and focus on being a solid damage dealer. Thank you so much. Please note down in the comments below if you would have skilled him differently or if you disagree with my assessment. See you later.